Hi! I'm doing a book review today over Pandemonium by Lauren Oliver. This review will probably contain spoilers considering that I just finished the book, so a lot of details are still stuck in my mind, and I kind of knew what was going to happen, and I kind of expected a lot of things to happen, and it was kind of a very predictable book. But yes, so this is a sequel to Delirium, so obviously, even if I did keep the review spoiler-free of this book, it would contain spoilers from the last book. Pandemonium is basically just about, it's split into two different time streams, pretty much, and the first one is the now time stream, and it involves Lena having a whole new identity. She's now Lena Jones, and she is out of the wilds, but she's going to this new sort of like Catholic school type situation, which she goes to in Delirium. But I think it's a stricter school in this one, and she goes to this assembly, and it's kind of like a lecture about delirium-free America, and the guy who's in charge of it has a son named Julian, and Julian is not like appreciated by his father because of, I don't know, different things, and he's been like delirium-free for his whole entire life because of the campaign that Delirium-Free America runs, and so he and Lena run off, they get captured and held captive for most of the book, and then finally when they get freed, they live with these people that are kind of like they serve the same point as I think Tigress does in Mockingjay. If you've read Mockingjay and you know who Tigress is, then there's like these two characters that they stay with for like 20 pages, maybe even less, and then they go to New York and they get captured. And then there's the then perspective, which involves Lena in the wilds right after what happened at the end of Delirium, right after Alex gets shot, and so she's in the wilds, and she's made her way to, I don't know, some other part of like the northeast part of the United States, and she meets Raven, Tack, Blue, there's like people named Grandma, and there's like a whole bunch of stupid names, but Raven and Tack are the main ones, and so, I mean, Blue kind of is too. But the whole subplot with them is just seeing the survival aspect of people who are living in the wild and what it's like to be a wild and how they're on the run from scavengers and things like that. And it's just kind of, it's like the then subplot factors into the now subplot, but the now not so much into the then, because obviously the things that happened in then happened before now, and it's just kind of, I think it's just kind of there to give a lot of background information into the now perspective, because if we didn't have that perspective, then we wouldn't know why Lena is the way she is, and like she keeps mentioning Raven and Tack and things like that in the now perspective. So we're going to start right off with the writing of this book, and I have an issue with the Delirium books, probably just because I think they're really slow paced. There's a lot of action in them, which is okay, but like other than that, they're very slow paced, and it's not one of those books that you can just like skim through if you want to be able to understand what's going on. You have to like sit there and actually sort of like read every single word and read into it in order to get what's going on. I mean, I'm not going to say it's like a completely complex plot line, because I think that Delirium was more complex than Pandemonium was, but I do like Pandemonium better than I like Delirium. But I think that the writing is just very slow paced, and I mean that's not really a bad thing, but I just get sort of turned off and lost in these books to the point where I think that I'm going to abandon them, but I don't end up doing so in the end. So I don't know, these books, the writing in this book, I mean, it's fine, it's got good descriptive qualities, and it's very refreshing to have such in-depth writing, but I guess since I've been reading so many young adult books that are not descriptive at all, a lot of those you can read reviews on the blog. It's just kind of weird going back into a book that's very heavy with description and with exposition and things like that. But I do like Lauren Oliver as a writer. I read Before I Fall before Delirium came out, and I think that I have a review of it on the blog, but that was back when my reviews were like a paragraph long. Now they're like 2 pages. Speaking of reviews, you can read my written review of Pandemonium right here, and I'll also leave a link down below. I have come up with some like specific name for that. I think it's kind of stupid to do that anyway. So yeah, but moving on to the plot of Pandemonium, I've already given a synopsis of what it's about, but as far as plot development and structure and the arc goes, I really love like the world that this takes place in, a world where love is a disease, and a love where you have to get cured, or in a world where you get cured at the age of, I think it's 18, and how you're separated by gender, how you're segregated, and then you become integrated by arranged marriages, and then there's the invalids, and there's the sympathizers, and there's the... But it's a very interesting realm, and it's a very interesting world, and just the fact that it's so slow-paced dulls it down a bit for me, and I want it to be so cool, and it's such an intense and depressing world. Like, don't get me wrong, this book is really depressing, but I think that the world that she has, that it's taking place in, is really interesting and has a lot of potential to be something incredibly extraordinary and unique, and it is very unique, but I just think that the writing takes it down a notch, and if the writing was more fast-paced and more exciting and had a lot more like emotion and passion and happiness in it, it would make the books go by faster, but also keep that world as something really new and fresh. And so as far as the plot structure and arc go, so I think that my favorite of the two was the now perspective, and I liked Julian as a character, and I liked Raven fine, but I think Julian was a much more suitable romantic interest for Lena than Alex was. I didn't really care that much for Alex. I think he was just there to introduce her to the world of the wilds, and so that he was there at the ending of this book, and so he could serve as sort of like a segue into her life in the wilds, because that's where this book takes place, essentially. So I liked the structure and how it all came together at the end, and how when they get to New York, Raven's there and she helps them when Julian gets kidnapped, and she helps Lena go get him, and then that being in love is going to grow on him, and then Alex comes out of nowhere and says don't believe her, and so Alex is back. As far as characterization goes, I think the characters in this series are fine, but that there's really nothing to like rave about, because the characterization in the series is sort of just blunt, and it's just there, and you kind of see it occurring. And I think at the beginning of Delirium, I mean, the only characterization you can really discern is Lena's, since she's the only person who's really been in both books as far as like being there the whole time goes. So I think that Lena at the beginning of Delirium was very shy, very worrisome, and she's also very much of a stickler, and now at the end of Pandemonium she is very free and liberated and much more rebellious. And so I think Lena's had a lot of characterization, and it's very easy to discern though, which I don't really like about characterization. I want to be able to look for it, and I want to be able to pinpoint certain aspects on my own. I mean, I don't want to have the book telling me that she's changed, and so I think that that's what Delirium and Pandemonium do. But as far as the other characters go, I think Julian had some good characterization, but as, the other characters didn't really shine for me. I don't think they really developed a lot or stood out in any way. The characterization was fine. So I think that out of 5 stars, I'm going to give Pandemonium 4 stars based on plot and the world and the structure and the way that everything is done very intricately, and I very much like that aspect of the series, and the fact that it has a very creative idea. The only reason it's not getting that extra star is because it is very slow-paced and dull, and some characters were just not fully developed to the point that it was astounding. So there's my review on Pandemonium. Make sure you follow the podcast on Twitter if you want to follow my personal Twitter. I'll also link it down there. I will also put the Facebook down there and the link to the text review of Pandemonium. Have a good day, and everyone, if you have not read Delirium, go read that. Read Pandemonium, and then the 3rd book, Requiem, is coming out next year. Bye!